Welcome in, everybody, to round one here. This is the deck that everyone's talking about coming out of RTN season. We have got our champion of the last month, Grant Strom, on Dromai Ash Artist, and all the way from Belgium here for the Pro Tour, Michaele Teppa coming in, absolutely bringing the heat with the Dromai deck, and these two players bringing the deck again that everyone's talking about, and making sure that, because I was told it's a Dromai mirror, and I'm seeing a Dash.io on the field, and it's not a Dromai at all. Grant is on Dash.io, and everything we just said is different because Grant needs to be brought to Dash.io on the thing here because it's looking like it's not a Dromai mirror at all.
What an exciting turn of events.
Dash versus Dromai. We were sitting here talking about, like, okay,
this is fantastic.
let's set up the Dromai mirror. Let's talk about this deck that everybody's talking about. And then the match shows up in front of us, and I'm seeing the mechanologist hero staring at me in the face. So this is now a completely different matchup. Let's completely throw everything we've just talked about out the window and instead talk about Dash.io into Dromai. This is a deck that had a huge kind of coming out party right before Worlds last year. Didn't do as well in the CC rounds of Worlds, but is going to have to try to face down the prohibitive queen of the RTN season. Looks as though we're just going to go ahead and pop the gold token, I have to imagine, if that's what just transpired on Michaele's turn. And now let's see how he wants to continue. This is just going to be perhaps the dust up is going to go into the Invoke Asvali instead, creating the dragon. This looks like probably turn 0 here. We're going to pitch into the Flamescale Furnace. Looks like Michaele just making a bunch of ash, establishing a dragon. We're going to see if Grant wants to play an item at instant speed. That's just the turn 0 here, my buddies. So, okay, looking at this matchup, this is, I think over time, it's gotten better and better for mechanologists playing into Dromai. What do you think the difference is, like Dash.io versus just OG Dash?
You know, I think Dash.io brings more aggression than any other mechanologist. And in this particular matchup, I think that's probably a good thing. We're going to see a race to get this Dromai player down to 0 life before they can establish something.
Let's go ahead and just check in with the equipment here as Grant is going to go ahead and drop. Looks like a backup protocol blue cranking, putting a counter on that Symbiosis shot. But I want to take a look over there at the Belgian player as we have not only the Crown of Dominion and the Flamescale Furnace, which are pretty standard, we have the Iron Wrought Gauntlet, which I've actually never seen presented in a Dromai deck, and the Snapdragon Scalers, which does look to be, I think we saw a Flame Call Awakening pitched as well, so this is looking like somewhat of a slightly, you know, I would say an Empress Mara Ferris Redline Dromai style of deck, but the Iron Rock Gauntlet, that's either some European spice or some new innovations in the deck that I am not aware of here, but this is going to be a 0 to 60 to clear out the Asvali. What do you make of the equipment suite as the Boom Grenade Yellow is placed and looks like not cranked here?
Yeah, you know, my first thought is it looks like Michaele is splitting the difference between aggression and defensiveness. It's really helpful to be able to stop those on hits with the Iron Rod. You've got the boom grenades coming out and the break points. You really want to be able to stuff those in order to survive long enough to get a board established.
And huge for the Dromai player here, you know, no aggression really coming his way the last turn as Grant just cleared a dragon, established a couple items, and passed from there. But the Tome of Imperial Flame from the arsenal, this is probably exactly what you want to see if you're a Dromai player. You get to start the game off, make some ash, make a dragon that has to be respected, and now we're making 2 more ash, drawing 2 more cards. We have plenty of ash to work with on our turn as well. So let's see how exactly Michaele wants to go ahead and use this power card. See it burn them all in another Flame Call Awakening. We're just going to go ahead and make a Chromai. Popper is looking less effective already on the turn. It looks as though we're just going to be attacking right away, creating that action point, coming in with the dragon.
One important thing to note is that this Chromai has 2 health, and that's exactly how much damage the pistol does. I think the pistol is going to be really instrumental in clearing this dragon in particular, and a lot of the other smaller dragons that are going to be presented during this match.
Absolutely. We do see a high octane in the hand for Grant as well. With the pistol, if you can get a bunch of counters on the Symbiosis shot, it's a good way, like you said, to clear dragons that have 2 or less life. The question is how many dragons are going to be on the field at the end of this turn. We're going to get an Invoke Yenderai using one of our plenty of ash, going down to, I believe, 2 on the turn from here. Big ol' annoying dragon to deal with, that endurance counter, not making it fun to attack into. And interesting seeing Michaele, he's being pretty disciplined here, not going to dump the hand, especially now that you have the extra action point thanks to the Chromai. Grant just going to go ahead and take the damage. Looks like heading down as a result of all the damage on these last couple turns, going down to 30 because, of course, Dash.io does start, I believe, at a couple less life.
Yes. 36?
Yeah, good amount.
32?
No, certainly not 32. That's Prism. That's Prism numbers.
Okay.
That's Prism numbers. But we do have another Invoke Yenderai coming down. 3 dragons off a Tome turn, and one of them being a Chromai. There's not much I think you'd be happier to see, save for something like a crazy Tomultai explosion.
Yeah.
And it looks like Grant might be priced into this. He's already set up those items. He's got a high octane in hand. He's going down to 27 to Michaele's 40. And now we're just going to finish this thing off with the dust up. With you, the Dromai player here, you just can tell your opponent's not wanting to block. This dust up coming in, not only threatening the breakpoint, but threatening to make an Ash and an Ashwing.
And we were just talking about how that pistol is so good at clearing the smaller dragons. Well, 2 Yenderais on the board, those aren't small dragons.
Absolutely no. And that endurance counter is frustrating to deal with. Those Yenderais, you have to imagine you want to put a popper in front of, but it's the age-old question with Illusionists. It's the age-old question with Dromais. How much aggression can you stand to trade getting rid of the dragons versus putting pressure on the Dromai player's life total? And it looks like this dust-up might be enough, even with Kyloria's.
Wow.
We're going to go ahead.
See that block with the equipment, the full breakpoint, getting rid of his item rather than spending a card from hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to go ahead and cash in the Galvanize on the adaptive plating there. Kind of an unsung hero of the Bright Lights card pool coming into these Mechanologist decks. Boom Grenade going to tick down. Next time an attack hits, going to deal an additional 3 damage. Grant checking the top of the deck. Going to have to imagine if Grant wants to find victory staring down already a veritable dragon army. He's going to have to utilize not only those powered spiky turns like High Octane can give you, but also bringing cards off the top of the deck, abusing the action points, and getting points on the Symbiosis shot.
Yep. We're just going to have to wait and see whether he decides to clear these dragons or go straight for the face, maybe split the difference.
Let's see here. Not exactly sure what he pitched into on the turn. Oh, he just played the High Octane. Just played the High Octane.
Oh, okay.
Because Grant has switched his Banish and his discard, which is why I'm confused.
Yep.
But the discard is on the bottom, the Banish is on the top, which was like, well, how did he banish the High Octane? No, he played the High Octane.
Sure.
Every boost from here is going to give an action point, which is helpful to push damage, but those Yenderais, again, those endurance counters, frustrating to deal with when you're doing small increments of damage. This is going to be a zipper hit. Looks like it's going to be coming in for 5. We're going to boost away another High Octane. Check the top of the deck. We'll see exactly where this is pointed.
Yep.
And with the Iron Rock Gauntlet being put in front of it, looks like going towards the face of Dromai here, but the Sink Below going to go ahead and clean things up.
And there's that breakpoint I was telling you about earlier, stopping the Boom Grenade.
Absolutely. Again, you know, a lot of players playing Silken Form, Wave of Reality, these other arm slots that are, you know, illusionist specific. It looks as though we're going to go ahead for Grant here and put the Teklo Foundry Heart activation on the stack so that we can try to find another item. That's something we saw Tom Dowling do so much in his incredible run back in the calling in Australia. He was so aggressive utilizing the Teklo Foundry Heart to go ahead and find items off the top of the deck. Clearly, it's such a huge way that these Dash.io decks really put together the pieces to find their wins.
You get to see 2 cards instead of 1, double the odds of hitting an item that you want to see.
Let's see, 2 floating after the Foundry Heart activation. Another High Octane. We're going to get rid of a Sprocket Rocket off the top of the deck. Check once again to see if we can finally find an item to bring in at instant speed with Dash. But this is 4 and threatening a whole lot more thanks to that Boom Grenade.
Yep, that zipper hit coming in for 4, and I think Michaele is just going to have to decide whether he's happy with his board and he's going to give up the hand, or if he's going to continue the aggression and take the 3.
How lucky are we? We have a Pro Tour competitor come all the way from Europe to compete here in our AGE Open. We get to feature them on round 1 in a perfectly happy accident, as we needed to get our past champion on for round 1 as our reigning champ. He's got the medal on, which I do in fact love to see. But we also get Pro Tour competitors coming from all around the world, and we're getting to see, again, I can't speak to exactly the origin of the Iron Rot tech right now. I mean, I think Iron Rot Gauntlet was used early. I remember Mara talking about getting a pretty fancy Iron Rod Gauntlet back before we had some different options in the arm slot. So it has been some time since that has been presented.
It looks like he just took 7 damage. The Boom Grenade popped, and the zipper hit came in for 4+3.
Good use of the Boom Grenade there. It was not an incredibly impactful turn on the turn before for Grant, but was able to bank 3 damage in, getting those life totals a little closer.
Okay, he's looking at the pistol now. Taking out the Dromai.
It's got plenty of action points from here, but again, those Yenderais are challenging. Mara Ferris in the chat. She can tell me later about the history of the Iron Rock Gauntlet, and if I was correct about it. It's an earlier tech in these Dromai decks. Looks like this might just be a blue zipper hit. We're really trying to find an item off the top of the deck there for Grant. Just going to be 2 damage. Looks like it's moving towards Michaele, because here's the thing, high octane so much, it looked like that's me taking out an endurance counter.
Oh.
That's just going to be the end of the turn.
Interesting.
So much more challenging without the item generation to get value off of your high octane. That card is so powerful, but of course, unlike the Tectoplasma pistol, you need to play items to put counters on that pistol.
Yep, his pistol's now out of counters, and I think because he had a very blue-heavy hand, he didn't feel like the value of sending that damage towards Michaele's face was worth it. So the counters off the Yenderize, hoping to clear him up maybe some later round.
Invoke Mirror Guy coming down, going to create even 2 turns now where Michaele doesn't have to think nearly as hard about the Phantasm. And Grant is already down to 24, and the dragons just keep coming. Looks like there's going to be 2 Yenderize. Grant taking both. See if Michaele wants to throw in the Mirror Guy. And at this point, you've already put the pressure on. Grant's not looking like he wants to block. We're going to finish this thing out with the Snatch. Again, the Dust Up was a threatening on hit last turn, but how about a card for your arsenal?
Ooh, seeing that Snatch comes out is rough. I know Grant doesn't want to part with any cards in his hand. He wants to be the aggressor in this matchup, but he keeps getting asked the question, do you let this hit?
Now, this is a fascinating kind of initial snapshot of what we might expect next weekend at the Pro Tour. Dromai, again, perhaps the queen of the metagame coming out of RTN season. And this is a deck that people would maybe not expect in Dash.io, right? People haven't been talking nearly as much about Dash.io in the time since Bright Lights. But there's going to be a question if you want to bring Dash.io to the Pro Tour. Can you handle the Dragon Queen? And for Grant at this moment, it looks like he's taken 4 going down to 15 from 19. That was an Enlightened Strike drawn for Michaele. He is set up with 3 dragons on the board, a starter in his arsenal as long as he keeps a card in the hand for whatever dragons are left over. The question is, what is Grant going to be able to string together? Boom Grenade starting off the turn.
Cranking it, getting that counter.
Teklo Pounder headed to the pitch. Another high octane off the top. Let's see what we're able to string together here for Grant. He's already down to 15 to Michaele's 33.
Well, that's what you want to see when you're down in life. You need to put that aggression on. Pedal to the metal, or in this case, high octane.
Another zipper hit, so a very similar looking turn. This is a zipper hit red, threatening a boom grenade on a high octane, 2 turns in a row for Grant. Hopefully, if you're fans of either San Diego or Mechanologists, you have to hope that he's going to be able to find some items to really get the good value off of the high octane. Because again, Symbiosis Shot, free to use, but you need to invest into it with those items.
Yep. So we're just considering this block here, throwing the equipment in front and a CNC.
It's nice for the Mechanologists when you have on hits, right?
It
Boom
is
Grenade,
nice.
a very different style of play and a style of threatening damage than Mechanologists have gotten to play before, and we finally found an item. It's a backup protocol blue.
Yep. That helps put the counters on the pistol, prepping for either more damage or clearing out these dragons. I'm waiting to see how Grant decides to play this turn forward.
Alrighty, here looks like we're going to go ahead and just play the Spark of Genius 4-0, grabbing another item, which we can crank to continue.
He actually already got the action point from the item earlier, which is one of the benefits of being able to play off the top of your deck. You get so much access to action points.
Absolutely. Cranking the item here, though, will also replenish the action point if you need it, which will be nice to continue with that pistol.
Yep.
Load up the pistol, grab another action point, even though you just used an action point. Thanks.
He's got almost too many action points. You've got the high octane giving action points. You've got the cranking. See if you can use them all effectively.
Going to depend on how much pistol is able to be threatened this turn.
Threatening a lot of damage with these boom grenades. And he chooses not to crank it. I like that choice because what it says is it hedges against this hit. He doesn't need the action points, but if Michaele decides to block all this out, well, he's got another one for next turn.
Absolutely. The question is, how much damage will Grant be able to threaten? It looks like it may be just another blue 0 to 60 in hand. So very, very similar damage, very attack action cards on these 2 high octane turns. But Grant already down to 15. We do get to draw off the Spark of Genius.
Very helpful.
And it looks like it might be just either a Sprocket Rocket or a Fender Bender. Let's see how he wants to deploy these cards here. 3 counters on the pistol, but only 1 extra action point on the turn. Going to be a red 0 to 60, certainly better, and that is a break point, and that is another action point off of the high octane. 4 damage, and you can't,
We're
maybe.
out of equipment blocks on the Dromai side. He's going to have to commit 2 cards to this if he wants to stop both boom grenades.
And technically, you can block with that flame scale furnace, but the question is, how much are you worried about losing the access to the flame scale furnace?
The chain was broken. I see. I didn't catch that.
But the question is, you need that ash generation with that flame scale furnace. So when you said he's out of equipment blocks, I was just like, no, he is, because they never block with the flame scale furnace. But at this point, he's already leveraging this life differential.
It looks like he's thinking about it.
Alrighty, we've got 4 damage on the combat chain, threatening 2 boom grenades. 2 red boom grenades. So this is really an attack for 12 if it hits. 3 dragons on the board. Looks like at least 2/2 blocks, which is still, you're still spending 2 cards to block at this point unless you have a defense reaction.
I think he must be considering whether or not there's another attack coming in. He decides to block it.
And let's see here. This is going to be the final attack from Grant here. If he's able to find a break point, we will be able to get a lot of damage across.
The top of his deck matters a lot in this position, whether he hits an item. If we were right about that being a sprocket rocket, that is.
Yeah, because again, threatening that break point, if we can banish an item. Oh, and Grant actually knows exactly what the top of his deck is, because he can look at any time.
That's true.
So he would know if it is an item on top, and he would be able to know if he can give that +1 or not, if it's just the attack that, threatens to take the final card out of Michaele's hand. Is that enough? The answer is yes. Off the top of the deck, it's a dumpster dive, so no item. So just coming in for 3, so we're also going to be able to threaten 3 pistol shots on the end of this. But the question is, does Michaele want to let this hit? Is that another 2 block in hand for the Dromai player here? Because if so, those boom grenades are going boom. Interesting for Grant. One of the powers, the powerful effects of playing the Dash.io deck, you're really able to...
He attacked the Mirage guy.
Oh, I see. That's what happened. So in that case, not threatening those boom grenades on this turn, just saying, I need to go ahead and clear some dragons, it looks like. He's clearing a lot of dragons with the Symbiosis shot, getting rid of the Phantasm Prevention. And like you said, hedging and keeping a boom grenade around for next turn. So playing a little bit of a longer game, even though his life total is dropping fast. Michaele here, we know he has that Enlightened Strike in the arsenal. Is that enough to throw out here? The answer is yes, and another Enlightened Strike in hand going to the bottom. Do we want to draw a card to attack, or draw a card for the arsenal, or do we want to attack with our Yenderai, so giving it Go Again? Looks like maybe Go Again being represented on this chain.
That is 1 more point of damage than just sending it for 7, so I like that play, and it splits up the damage as well, harder to block it all out.
And this Yenderai without the endurance counter, if maybe you're happy to let it get, or not happy, but letting it get popped without an endurance counter when they've already invested resources into removing that counter. Definitely playing a little bit more of a different game once that counter has been removed.
Yeah, this Dromai player has gotten a lot of value out of the dragons he was able to establish early on.
Line Strike coming in, 5 with Go Again. This is round 1 of the March AGE Open here. 31 to now 10, and 3 more coming in. Grant just having to take it, going down to 7. He's got a 4-card hand, a boom grenade, and a dream, folks. Let's see exactly what he's able to do with it.
It's a tough spot.
Boom grenade ticks down. I don't know if there was a counter on the backup protocol blue.
That's a good question. I think I didn't see one.
Let's see, he's going to go ahead and pitch. Grabbing a zipper hit from his hand. You're going to go ahead and banish another yellow 0 to 60. This is 4 damage. Again, all these attacks threaten that red boom grenade, so 4 more. It looks like maybe 2 Sparked Geniuses in the hand as well for Grant here.
Without the action points to use those aren't exactly what you want to see.
See exactly how the Dromai player here wants to put those blocks together. It looks like maybe a Sigil of Solace in hand, and a beautiful one at that. Michaele hailing all the way from Belgium, gracing us with his mastery here at the AGE Open.
Look at the way he's just cool, calm, and collected, thinking about...
I know. I mean, he just... Oh, wow, looks like he's going to go ahead and take the damage here. Again, they don't mess around on the other side of the pond. Going to go ahead and take the boom grenade and the 4 damage from the zipper hit. 8 damage. Michaele heading down to 23 after that attack. Probably liking those cards in his hand when you're considering that Grant here already down to 7 on the turn.
Yeah, and I think Michaele smells blood in the water. He's just taking these hits saying, I don't need that extra life. I don't need to impress anyone at the end of the game. I just want to win.
100%. 100%. Let's see how Grant wants to continue. 2 Spark of Geniuses in the hand here. 2 floating. I can't say that the top of deck has been incredibly kind to Grant.
Yeah,
on this
what
game.
you really want to see is after you've boosted a card, you'd like that surprise boom grenade. When they're sitting there and your opponent knows that it's coming, all of the information is out on the table.
Absolutely. Top of the deck can be a nice instant speed difference maker, game changer in this game. But you do have to still find the cards. It's what we love and sometimes curse about our favorite games in Flesh and Blood. The variance that makes things fun and challenging.
And yes, the excitement of not knowing what's going to come next.
Grant here.
Comebacks that are possible.
Able to find finally another item off the top. Core going to go ahead and come in.
Looks like he's playing that, searching up for an item.
Has the ability to pay, X equals 1, but there's not going to be any items that really come out for 1 here, I do believe.
I think he just needs to push that damage. He's looking for maybe a boom grenade or something defensive, perhaps, to help him stay alive.
Checking in, making sure, can he get the steam counter off of the Core? Look like Michaele saying, no, I think you might have missed it, man, and that's
tough.
That is how things go. But we are going to go ahead and grab the boom grenade here. Put the counter on the gun. Question is, are we going to crank it on the turn?
I think he has to crank it to keep his turn going.
He does, if he wants to keep the turn going, for sure. I
Right.
wonder if he does.
Right, yeah, because he could just Arsenal pass. I don't see the counter yet, but he's still shuffling. It could be that he's decided to crank it or that he hasn't gotten to that step yet.
But at this point, yeah, it looks as though he is cranking, as you do get to draw the card, but there's another item off the top, so not a lot of pressure that Grant is able to put on this turn. And Michaele, at least with taking that 8, is showing, hey, I'm ready to put some pressure on. You're already down to 7.
And he decides to go ahead and play that second Spark of Genius.
Grab a backup protocol red here with the 2 floating and can crank to grab a red attack. So very nice for Grant, able to string this turn together.
Yep, he does have a blue in hand, so he'll be able to continue putting a little bit of pressure on.
And the draws here from Spark of Genius proving to be rather impactful as well. I keep forgetting it does that. I'm used to playing my cousin when he plays Dash, and every time it draws, I'm like, oh, you draw too? What's that about?
It's a phenomenal card in Mechanologist.
And look at this. Because of the cranking, you really just get to grab an item, put a counter on the gun, and draw a card and keep going.
Yep. Yeah, those backup protocols are some of the best cards to string turns together in this Dash.io list.
Let's see for Grant here. Check in the graveyard. Going to go ahead and crack the backup protocol red. So really a hand that seemed rather clunky. Thanks to the top of the deck and thanks to these new backup protocols and 0-cost items from these 2 Spark of Geniuses, really turning into much more of a real turn. We're getting another red zipper hit with a boom grenade attached. Going to go ahead and banish the Core off the top. But now we're looking at 5 damage plus 3 is another 8. So Michaele all of a sudden facing a little more damage than I think he was anticipating on this turn.
Yeah, that turned from clunky to wide.
8 damage being represented with this zipper hit. And again, with a 1 counter already on the Flamescale Furnace, it's less and less incentivized to block. And if that is a no block in hand in that Sigil of Solace, Michaele is going to have trouble facing down multiple breakpoint attacks.
And
is
it looks
Grant
like
able to
he
find
says
them?
he doesn't care at all. He'll take 7 more damage. 8.
8 more damage, yeah. 5 plus 3.
15.
And we've got a Pulse Wave Harpoon here. We're going to be able to look at 2 cards of Michaele's choosing, and one of them is being committed to the block if Grant if he shows a 2 block, because only 2 cards on the chain. So if he shows a 2 block, it can be added to the Pulse Wave Harpoon. But still, Grant is definitely getting some information, and Michaele all of a sudden down to 15. Oh, it's a Phoenix Flame and the Scar for a Scar, which is that's a perfect card for Michaele here. He's going to block with it no matter what because he knows he's not going to be at less life. Not going to have the go again here unless we give the Snapdragon Scalers. And now it's time for 2 more from the Symbiosis shot. This is a much closer game than I thought it was going to be 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely. You know, Grant showing off the offensive power of Dash.io. The reason you bring this deck into a matchup like this is you want to pressure the Dromai.
Tekla Core going to do work on the next turn as well. We're going to pitch the Phoenix Flame into a Billowing Mirage, so making another Ashwing, which is huge when your opponent is already down to 7. 3 damage is also something that has to be respected. 2 counters on the Tekla Core means 2 resources for Grant at the start of his next turn as well. This is looking much hairier for the Dromai than I anticipated. Grant here has to commit a card to block finally. Blue 0 to 60 going in front of the Billing Mirage. Ashwing coming in along for the ride. Does have the Phantasm, but only represents the 1 point of damage. How much pressure is Grant going to be able to put on at the end of this with the back of that Tekla Core is the question.
Yeah, you know, I think this is a really tough spot to be. Grant wants to pressure, and he does not want to block.
Did find the popper here. That throttle going to go ahead in front of the Ender Eye. So now Michaele at 11, card in Arsenal, 1 dragon on the field, 2 cards left for our past February champion in Grant Strom. 2 resources here from the Tekla Core. Looking at the top of the deck.
I can make out what looks like a Toma Fiendal in his hand. I'm not sure if he's thinking about arsenaling that and playing a slower turn. It might be too late to set that.
Looks like we're just going to go ahead and at first just attack for 2 damage, arsenal a card because one of them was a BIOS update that does nothing. It does block 3, but at this point, if you're not going to do any further attacks, not willing to break the Achilles Accelerator to play that Toma Fiendal, looking to play it out of the arsenal, gain at least a little bit of life, and move on from there. Now, Michaele, 5 cards in hand. Your opponent is Zach 6, no dragons. What can you put together with the queen of the RTN season in your hands?
Michaele really wants to end the game here. I think if Grant survives and is able to play that Tome out, we start to get more and more parity from between these 2 players. And yeah, the game's looking close.
Let's see. Flamecall Awakening. We've got an E-Strike in hand. A Miragai is huge to protect yourself from some Phantasm here. Looks like that Scar for a Scar is just 4 damage as well.
He's in the tank, weaving this turn together, 5 cards. How will he put this the most efficiently?
Let's see. Both players here, sub 20, 30 minutes gone from the game clock in the first round here of our March AGE Open. Critical first game for both players. Everybody wants to have the story of the Pablo Pintor submarine, but no one wants to go through it. You'd like to take that first game, put you in a good place for the standings, for the top 8. Now Michaele, all the way from the other side of the world here, coming out with just the 0 for 4. Currently no go again.
All right.
You have to imagine this is not just going to be I'll IP myself 4 and pass the turn.
You know, it's really interesting. The way that he's calculating that out kind of reminds me of Kano players looking for lethal, and it looks to me like he's trying to string something together. This is a break point. You got to believe he's going to give it go again. And, you know, after that, how many more attacks are going to follow?
Yeah, and with Grant already down to 6 here. 4 damage coming in. Grant has to deal with it. Sitting already down to 6. 4 cards in hand in that Tome of Fiendal in the arsenal. Needs to be able to boost to utilize those Achilles accelerators. So needs to keep some cards in the hand.
And Grant really did a good job of saving his armor for late in the game. He used a little bit of it, but he's still got 3 blocks showing.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. That Crown of Providence could do wonders on blocking this turn if we want to just put that tome to the bottom and grab another blocking card.
Can't imagine he wants to put the tome to the bottom, but maybe he has to. Maybe this turn is so wide that he has to give up the opportunity to gain some life in order to stay alive.
Let's go ahead and see. That's 4 damage. Got the go again from the snaps immediately. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and pitch. Looks like maybe a nourishing into that. Either Flame Call or the Mirror Guy. Going to play the Flame Call Awakening. That's 3 damage to go ahead and grab the Phoenix Flame. Probably going to be used for pitch here. We've got a Mirror Guy as well. Maybe even used to power up the Enlighten Strike later in this turn. Right now, one of the most powerful effects of Flame Call Awakening is just that 3 damage.
In a deck that wants to pitch reds, it's amazing to be able to just draw one up.
3 damage coming across here. Got the Phoenix Flame to power up the rest of the turn. Grant's going to see what happens from here. It looks like maybe motioning to take the 3 damage, heading down
Wow.
to 2. Every attack from here, unless it's an Aether Ashwing, most likely is gonna push that damage to take Michaele over the finish line and put him 1-0 on the day. Let's see how he wants to continue the turn from here. This is big decision time. He only has, I believe he's gonna be able to go again on this, and then Arsenal the Arsenal that. I mean, go again wouldn't make sense.
Okay,
So
yeah.
probably just for 7.
I can't. Yeah, we'll have to see how Grant decides to block this one out to determine whether this had go again. It doesn't look like we've got the go again chip, but that could just be an oversight.
Yeah, no, this is just going to come in. He's going to go ahead and block the 7, 1, or no, he's going to block 6, 1, 2. Yeah,
Yep.
block 6, go to
Blocking
1.
6,
Arsenal the
okay.
Maragai.
All right.
What can Grant do from here? 2 cards and an Arsenal.
Well,
And the 2 resources from the Teklo
the
core.
2
Can't forget
resources
that.
is huge. He will still need to boost in order to gain the ability to use those boots.
Ooh.
Unless he finds an item off the top, he gains an action point with that crank.
Absolutely.
That is exactly what you want to see. 1 resource floating.
Gone down to 1 here has Grant, but going to look to string together a turn. Has an action point thanks to the crank. Got another blue in the hand. We know about the Arsenal. Can be able to draw and gain some life here. No dragons on the field for the Dromai player.
And it looks like he's sitting here thinking still. Is there a card he wants to play before?
Also able to, if needed, grab another blue card thanks to backup protocol. Blue does have the 1 floating
Could
and a
be what
blue in
he's thinking
hand.
about.
Plenty of time left for these players. Looks like we are going to immediately go ahead and crack the backup protocol. Grab another blue card here. Going to be that blue zipper hit. Power up more resources on the turn if need be. Grabs the blue card. Both players just checking in.
This is tense.
Grant heading down 2-1 and has, I think, navigated a beginning of a game that would look pretty gnarly if you're fans of Dash.io. It's going to go ahead and be, this looks like a red zipper hit coming in 4-5.
Okay.
Concealing some information about the rest of the turn here is Grant. As he, have to keeping that card in the hand. If we did want to go ahead and play the Toma Find-All, would gain us an extra life, but if we're going to keep it for later, more power to you. If you're going to play it after this, you're kind of concealing information from your opponent, right? Just throwing out an attack and saying you have to think about all the different possibilities. And now at this point, Michaele doesn't know if 2 cards are going to be drawn or not. Because, again, that card's just been sitting at that arsenal for a couple turns.
It's an interesting choice because it seems like he's giving up 1 extra life by waiting, concealing that information. He's saying, I value the concealing more than the 1 life.
Yes, because Michaele here thinking, okay, this is probably the end of the turn, 5 damage. I know what that other card is. It's just a blue card, so I'm happy to take the 5. But now Grant gaining 3 life still and can continue the turn from here.
6-4, and Grant has the tempo. 3 cards to play.
Pretty amazing work from Grant, stringing together some chunky and not very intuitive lines. He's up to 4. Gained 3 life thanks to that Toma Find-All. We talked about the top of his deck not cooperating throughout the game, but at this point, finding that on this turn, absolutely huge for Grant.
Look at that. The T-bone, that's going to pull the last piece of equipment. He's forced to block and give up his furnace.
Forced to block, give up the furnace. 2 ash probably is enough from here with your opponent at 4 to establish whatever critical pieces you need. But now at this point, it's close to half your life with those 2 damage coming across, right? That's, a third of your life total if that does connect. 4 cards in hand and a card left in the arsenal, which is a mirror guy for Michaele here. And looks like he's just going to go ahead and take the 2. There's no boom grenade coming in at instant speed on this turn because we've already done Dash's ability once. Time to use that blue zipper hit to pay for a yellow zipper hit. So here's 4 more damage, Michael.
Break points.
4 more damage.
That's lethal. He's threatening. He has to block here.
4 more damage and a symbiosis shot following from this point. So 6 damage being threatened on the turn. How many cards is Michaele going to be able to keep? And what damage and pressure is he going to be able to throw at his opponent following this big turn from Grant? So cool to see the way that he kept the Toma Find-All back.
Yeah.
Allowing Michaele to think something was something was true about the turn that wasn't. Oh, he's just got this random card in the arsenal and the 1 blue card I know about thanks to the backup protocol. But Grant showing that even in a game where you're drawing up as much as you are as in Flesh and Blood, often it's important to conceal information as much as possible, and that command and conquer being committed to the block, because there's no arsenal on this turn, buddy. Might as well use it for 3 points of block value.
Yep. And then coming in for the pistol. We'll have to see. Does Michaele want to go to 1? Or preserve that life a little bit longer? Grant sitting on 4.
Symbiosis shot here. Gonna go ahead. Michaele heading down 2-1.
Just got 3 cards in hand in an arsenal. That's a lot of pressure.
One of them is a no block, and one of them is a 2 block. Here's a Ravenous Rabble, 0 for 4 with go again, revealing the Rake the Embers off the top. So here's, I said 0 for 4 before you revealed, because that's how it works with these Dromai decks. It's pretty much going to be red every time. I don't even know if we've seen a card that ain't red yet.
That's right. And one of the tricky things about playing -IO in this spot is that you can sometimes brick with items. And when you'd love to block, it doesn't have that block printed at the bottom
Absolutely.
of the card. It does look like he has quite a few blocking cards from what I can see. We'll have to see if he can manage to survive taking 1.
The zipper hit here, going to go ahead. Soak up 3 of that damage. Time to pitch into the Miragai, so no Phantasm here on this attack. 2 damage, most likely going to come across as the Miragai swings on in. Grant can take and go to 1 and keep 3 cards.
He's got another Tome of Fyendal.
Let's see, he's going to check the top of the deck. Does have that no block in the hand, but it's also a blue card. Another Tome of Fyendal to draw a couple cards. See if the top of the deck can provide another action point to keep going from there.
And he goes to 1. Ooh, another break point. You hate to see that.
Yeah, just going to have to commit a couple cards to the block there if that is the red dust up. And it is, in fact, going to take 2 cards from Grant hand. Both players sitting here at 1, but critically, Michaele has that dragon on the board, and all Grant can do is play the Teklo core with the 2 steam counters, put a counter on the gun, and pass the turn. So Michaele here, all the tempo in the world. 4 cards in hand and a Miragai on the board. This might.
See that card?
I do see the card. Let's see what happens first, though. This is going to be a Rake the Embers coming out.
Rough.
3 points of 1 individual damages.
And the first one's going to have Phantasm, or won't have Phantasm.
Yeah, first one,
rather.
Quite a lack of Phantasm. Looks like we're keeping an Ash around, so not representing every single Ash stream because with our opponent at 1 if we're the Dromai player here. Never mind. What I'm saying right now? You just scratch that. We're getting all 3. We're getting all 3. We got plenty of Ash and the Burn them all.
No.
We're just throwing it all down.
That's it, right? Oh, no, he has Arcane Barrier.
Yeah, he has the Arcane Barrier 1.
Theoretically survive, but it looks like
theoretically the Arcane Barrier on the Achilles Accelerator
it.
there would be enough to stay alive, but Grant reading the writing on the wall, there are too many individual points, especially with the lack of Phantasm on the first one. Honestly, the dust up on that last turn was huge. A chain ender with a break point, taking both cards out of Grant's hand, and all the way from the other, across the pond, Michaele coming in and taking it down.
Do you remember what the life gap there at the biggest was? 31 to... was it 7?
It was like I made 33 to 7 or something like that.
Oh my gosh! And the comeback there, 1-1, amazing.
Honestly, I think that's a more exciting showing for -IO than I initially thought was possible. Like we said at the beginning of that game, given the life disparity, the way that Grant was able to string together multiple turns that seemed pretty unintuitive from where I was sitting, but the way that the top of the deck did finally start to cooperate, the way that those action points were able to be utilized, and those boom grenades and zipper hits came together like 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not quite enough, but was able, like we said, to close a life gap that seemed somewhat insurmountable.
Absolutely.
We're gonna go ahead and just take a quick break, as I think I need a moment to relax.
Sure.
Need a moment to breathe. But we are also gonna go ahead and bring in Michaele, hear from the man himself, hear about his experience. I believe, from what we understand, this is his first time in the States. Has got to feel good coming in as a winner in the first round of the AGE Open.
Looking for a fantastic day ahead of him.
Looking and forward to a fantastic day for all of us here watching, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Michaele, the winner of round 1 here at the AGE Open. Welcome back, everybody, to the March AGE Open, and I am here with Michaele Teppa. As you said, all your friends call you Teppa. Can I call you Teppa?
Sure.
What's up, Teppa?
Hi.
Congratulations
Thank you.
on the win. Talk to me a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about the game, because then I want to get into your story and you coming all the way over here for the Pro Tour. But first, walk us through that game. That was close out there.
Well, it started really good for me.
It certainly did.
I had a really good tomb turn. 3 dragons, and
Yender eyes.
yeah, following up with dust up.
Yep.
So, but then he came back. I had 2 high octanes that helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final final from the Arsenal, I had him at 1, and I thought,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask cards from him now, and then he goes to 4.
Yeah, totally. So a very close game. You brought Dromai.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to tell me, but are you testing this out for the Pro Tour, or are you like, no, I'm
No,
playing
I'm locked
Dromai
in.
for the Pro Tour?
It's
Yeah,
the only deck I brought.
yeah, locked in. From the RTN season, you play it in the RTN season. Yeah, do well in the RTN season.
Kind of, yeah.
I love to hear it. You did well out there. That
Mhm.
feels good. So talk to me about looking ahead at the Pro Tour, and what I'd love to hear about. And so from Belgium, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And then you said this is like your first real time in the States.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. You came for the Pro Tour. I just love to hear it. So, what do you, I mean? I know you're just starting, but I'm curious, as you look at like a Pro Tour in America, is there a difference that you kind of foresee in the metagame, a difference that you kind of foresee in like the opponents you're getting ready to play, or is it just like flesh and blood is flesh and blood, doesn't matter where I play it?
Flesh and Blood today is doesn't matter where you play it, because the metagame is so wide open.
Yeah.
You cannot know what to expect.
Sure. Is there anything you think that is unique to your scene out in Belgium that you're like, this is my favorite part about playing in my area, this is something I want to bring? Do you have players, friends that are coming over
No,
with
I'm
you?
the only one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've made about 55 new friends out here, so we'll be checking in with you
Okay.
throughout Pro Tour. But yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the scene out there. Like, what's your local meta like? What your local player base? Do you play mostly online, in person?
No, we play mostly in person. We have like
As God intended.
a player base of like 6-7 people, friends. We play mostly at my house.
That's awesome.
We call it the game room.
That's
so
awesome.
Shouts to the game room.
Shout out to the game room. And so, what made you? How many kind of tier 3 big events have you played in? Is this the first one? You played in a couple more?
Tier 3, that's Pro Tour, first Pro Tour.
First Pro Tour.
Some callings.
Some callings.
Well, I started playing like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
just for the scene and the
Yeah.
tournaments.
That's awesome. So, what's your favorite part about playing in the big tournaments? You say you start. You have you played other games? Is this kind of the first time you're?
No, I played Magic the Gathering for 20 years.
Okay,
So-
we got an OG in the house. Excuse
So
me.
we started playing Magic and did all the scenes in Europe,
Sure.
the Grand Prix and stuff, and then COVID happened, everything stopped, and then another game started,
Yeah.
and better game.
It turns out it's better.
Yeah.
It turns out it's pretty good. Now, did you come here early for the AGE specifically, or just want a lot of time to get
No,
ready?
I wanted to come a little bit early, like coming from Europe, it's like
Yeah, I want to
a
adjust
big trip,
Yeah.
and I said I'm gonna make a little vacation of it.
for sure.
some
And you were like,
sightseeing, and then I saw that the HGO
Yeah.
was now, so it,
you're like, hold on, 55 players. I get to
Yeah.
throw down against 55, 56, 54, 89, 150 players. There are 3,000 players out there. About
that doesn't look like 3,000.
About 51 players out there, folks. But still, I mean, I think kind of invaluable chance to play the deck in paper, play against American opponents, make sure you know everything's the same over here. We don't play with different cards. No, I'm kidding.
No,
Any other shout outs you want to give to people at home? Anybody that you want to say what's up
I
to?
already shout out to the game room,
Ah,
so
shout out to the game room.
that's the guys I want to shout out to.
Hell yeah. Well, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in the booth. And again, you just made a
Welcome.
bunch of friends, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the weekend at the Pro Tour for sure.
Perfect.
Yes. For the rest of you, don't go anywhere. We've got round 2 coming up in probably about 15 minutes. So thank you all for hanging out, and we will see you all very soon.